I never expected my entire life to shift on what seemed like an ordinary Tuesday morning. I worked as a project coordinator at a mid-sized marketing firm in Seattle. It was the kind of job I liked, not too chaotic, not too quiet, and filled with creative people who brought good energy into the office. Among all the faces in the office, one stood out the most, my boss, Ethan Carter. Tall, composed, with eyes that always seemed to be calculating yet kind. He wasn't the intimidating type of boss people whispered about behind closed doors. No, Ethan was respected, even admired, by nearly everyone who worked under him. I'd been at the company for just over 2 years. My initial interview had been with him, and I remembered how he smiled when he said, "You're going to do great things here, Emma." That was my name, Emma Collins. And those words from him stayed with me, especially during the tougher days. Ethan and I worked closely on several campaigns. From late-night brainstorming sessions to coffee-fueled mornings trying to meet deadlines, our professional relationship had grown strong. But there was always something underneath it all, a tension I couldn't quite put my finger on. Sometimes I'd catch him watching me when he thought I wasn't looking. Other times, he'd find small excuses to stay longer after meetings or stop by my office just to check in. Still, I never thought he'd cross the line. He was too professional, too guarded. So when it finally happened, when he confessed what he had been feeling, it caught me completely off guard. That morning started like any other. I got in around 8:30, grabbed a cup of black coffee from the break room, and settled into my desk. Ethan sent a message through our company chat. "Hey, can you stop by my office when you get a minute? Need to discuss something." My stomach fluttered the way it always did when he messaged me, though I always chalked it up to nerves or excitement about a new project. When I entered his office, he was standing near the window, looking out over the city. "Close the door," he said softly, without turning around. That was unusual. Normally, Ethan preferred an open-door policy. I closed it gently. "Is everything okay?" He turned to me then, and there was something different in his expression. It wasn't the confident, in-control look he usually wore. This time, he looked vulnerable. Nervous, even. "I've been thinking about this for a while, and I can't keep it to myself anymore," he said, stepping closer. "This might be unprofessional, and if it changes things, I'll accept the consequences. But I have to say it, Emma. I have feelings for you." The room felt smaller, the air heavier. I blinked, unsure if I had heard him correctly. "What?" He let out a breath. "I've tried to push it aside, try to tell myself it's just admiration or respect for your work. But it's more than that. I think about you outside of the office. I look forward to seeing you every day, hearing your ideas, watching you light up when you talk about something you're passionate about. I can't pretend anymore." My heart raced. This was my boss, someone I had always looked up to, someone I thought was strictly off-limits. And now, here he was, bearing his feelings, breaking down the very walls we had both carefully maintained. I didn't know what to say. I wasn't even sure how I felt. I had always liked Ethan, maybe even more than I realized, but the boundaries of work had kept those thoughts buried deep. I looked at him, really looked, and saw not just the man who signed my paychecks, but the man who remembered how I took my coffee, who always encouraged my ideas in meetings, who once drove me home in the rain when my car wouldn't start. "Hi, Ethan, I don't know what to say," I murmured. "You don't have to say anything," he replied. "I just needed you to know. Whatever you decide, I'll respect it. I won't make things uncomfortable for you here. I just couldn't keep pretending." I left his office in a daze. The rest of the day passed in a blur. I tried to focus on work, but my thoughts kept circling back to him. His words, his eyes when he spoke them. That night, I lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering what this meant for us. The next few days were awkward, to say the least. We still worked together, but there was a new tension in the air. A silence that wasn't there before. A weight that followed us into meetings and casual hallway encounters. But he didn't push. He kept his distance, letting me have space. Then came the company retreat, a weekend trip to a lodge just outside the city. It had been planned for months, and was supposed to be a mix of team building and relaxation. I considered skipping it, but my absence would only fuel rumors. So I went. The first night at the lodge, we had a bonfire. People shared drinks, stories, and laughs. I kept stealing glances at Ethan, who looked handsome in a navy sweater and jeans, laughing with the finance team. At one point, our eyes met. He gave me a small nod, a silent acknowledgement. Later that night, as I walked back to my cabin alone, I heard footsteps behind me. I turned and it was him. "Can we talk?" he asked. I nodded. We stood outside under the stars, the cold air making our breath visible. "I meant every word I said," he whispered. "But I also know it's not fair to put you in this position. If it makes things too hard, I'll step back." "No," I said, surprising myself. "You don't need to step back." He looked at me, hopeful. "I've been thinking a lot," I continued. "And maybe I feel the same way. I don't know where this will go, or how we'll make it work. But I don't want to ignore it anymore either." The smile that broke across his face was the most genuine thing I'd ever seen. We didn't rush into anything. We agreed to keep things private and professional until we could figure out a way forward. Eventually, he spoke to HR and voluntarily stepped down from his position so we could continue without any ethical conflicts. The company reassigned him to a different department, and I stayed where I was. We started dating more openly after that, no longer hiding our feelings behind office walls and professional courtesies. It wasn't easy. Some colleagues whispered, some speculated. But the people who mattered, the ones who knew us, understood that our connection wasn't born of power or office politics. It was real. A year later, Ethan proposed. Not in some grand, flashy way, but on a quiet evening at the beach, where he knelt in the sand and asked me if I would be his partner in every part of life, not just work. I said yes. Looking back, I often think about that moment in his office. The words he said, the courage it took. It truly was the moment everything changed. Not just for our relationship, but for me. It taught me that sometimes the most unexpected moments carry the greatest meaning. That love doesn't always follow the rules, and that listening to your heart, no matter how complicated the situation, can lead you exactly where you're meant to be.